Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. So today I had a person ask me, or not today, but today I want to make a video on wish-based gameplay because I had somebody recently ask me how I go about specific things in the game, and I'm going to go through and explain to you exactly how I decide what, when, and where is next in my gameplay. So, for my first thing that I worry about is needs. Those are my number one priority because it is what will either kill or keep my sim alive. So those are always my number one priority. Even when I play Sims 2, they're my number one priority. If all of my needs are in green and my sim is looking like they're doing all good and dandy, the next thing I will work on is their wishes. Any of these that I can complete. If I cannot complete them, obviously they're too hard to do in one day, or if it will take me multiple things to do it. Like, so if it's like sit down and write a book, maybe I don't have like a lot of time to write a book, or they end up getting like stressed out or whatever while doing it. These would be the things that I would go to after taking care of my needs. Like I said, if these are all really too hard, or like it's like get a promotion, but like I don't work today, and it's like go to work, or whatever, and it's like things like that you physically cannot do, then those would be the things that I would literally say, okay, I'm moving on to my next thing. The next thing on my list would be my hobby time. So whatever my sim rolls as their hobby, right? So, well, this sim doesn't have one, I don't believe, because I have just started playing as him. So we'll randomize his hobby and he gets nature. So if he got that he does flower arranging, I would spend 1 hour in game having him just fuss through his hobby until I needed to either take care. I mean, you could do more than an hour, but I would have him do it until, like, he gets a new wish, or he needs to take care of a need, or his telephone rings and you want to answer it, whatever. You can have them stop at any time. Normally I do about an hour, 2 hours tops, and then I will have them stop because it is a hobby. It is not a profession. It's not what they're working on for their jobs. So that would be my number 3 priority. Number 4 on that would be a bucket list goal. So if they've written a bucket list goal and they have, they've discovered a bucket list goal, that would be my number 4 priority to go through and do. So now I've taken care of needs, I've looked at my wishes and completed as many as I can. I have worked on my hobby, and I have worked on my potential goal here, whatever it may be. If you don't like the goal, my suggestion to you would be to clear it. I don't know if you can do that, but I would think that you could, especially with like UI cheats. I would assume that you can right click on it and like clear it or re-roll it or whatever. But that would be my next thing that I would work on for, something like that. Then after my bucket list goals, I would do 1 skill level for my job. Meaning I would work on any of the skills that they need for the promotion if I have nothing else to work on. Because I'm playing wish base, if they don't want a promotion, I normally don't really work on those skills. They might do them on their own and I just kind of let them do that or whatever, but I'm not going to be like actively going in and like making him be mischievous to people. It's just kind of like through gameplay. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Now, with this save file, if I needed someone to be a higher level because, say, I want to have like a crime lord and, I want them to have like the little peon rookie at the bottom of the scale, you know what I'm saying? Then I would obviously either 1, set them and use a cheat, or 2, I would have them actively work up the levels until they were that said number, and I could go, okay, I've got them where I want them, and now I can stop working on these tasks. So it's all based on your gameplay, of course, what you've got going on in your game, because obviously what I have going on in my game is going to be different than what you got going. You're going to have different whims, you're going to have all these different things. I do have a whim overhaul, a complete whim overhaul, to be honest, because the whims in the game are kind of lacking, and I see a big variety with the whim overhaul. Now there are other like whim overhauls out there, so you'll have to pick and choose whichever one you want to use. I do have a couple that coincide, and they just kind of like add a variety of extra things. So I mean, I do use those as well. I would consider, like, if you want to work on your career like a daily task, I would probably put that in like the same category as your soul's journey or your bucket list. You probably could do your daily tasks with your bucket list if you wanted at that tier as well, because that's fine. After I work on the next level of my job, I would work on one task for my aspiration. The example would be, if you need to make money selling flowers, you would sell like one bouquet of flowers, and now you've worked on that until they say like, I want to make $10,000, and then you're like, okay, let's go sell like a bunch of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So those would be the kinds of things that I would do in that order. Honestly, though, looking at my save file now, I might think that what I just said is definitely what I would do. But I do find myself sometimes just kind of like letting my sim choose something for themselves. So I'm going to give a couple of examples of things that may come up that you aren't quite sure what you should do. So one of them would be my sim rolls that they want to take on a new trait. I personally am going to come up with a calculator that is going to decide which traits they'll take on. So what you're going to do is it's going to have all of the traits listed at the top of the page. And then what you're going to do is it's going to have like drop downs below, and you're going to list all of your sims down below. And then you're going to pick the number. And once they hit 3 on a specific trait, of like times that they've asked to get that said trait, like the extra traits, that would be when I'm going to give that to them. Otherwise, I'm not going to do that, and I'm starting that on rotation 2 for my own personal game. So that will be made here hopefully very soon. So that would be one scenario of them doing something that you can't really like get a wish for. Another one would be if you use Wicked Whims, they can like autonomously ask to woohoo with people, whether it be a significant other or a random person. If it's their own significant other, my answer is always yes, because I pretend like it's like ACR. And our ACR, I don't really ever get denied the the interaction never really gets denied when they want to woohoo with when the risky woohoo comes up for ACR in The Sims 2. I've never really seen it get denied. Maybe it does every once in a while. I don't know. But yeah, so if they're a couple, I always say yes. If they are dating, I always say yes. If they're a family sim, I always say yes. If it's a random sim, like, so this sounds really bad, but like sometimes my sims are like at the library, okay, and then they ask some random person that they don't have a friendship with if they would want to woohoo. So what I kind of do is, if that other person is my own sim, I will look to see if that person is like romance, family, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of depict it off of that. So obviously, if they're romance, the answer is always yes. If they're a family sim, my answer is always no. And if they're anything in like any of the other categories, I flip a coin, and heads means they will woohoo and tails means that they won't. And so it gives me a little bit of variety because I deem my romance sims to be like very woohoo, like go-getters, and then my family sims are more so based on like what I would want people to like a family sim. They're based on just being with their family and spending time with their family, not so much like woohooing with random sims. They would want to get like married and have kids and kind of thing like that. Some other scenarios that the person asked about in the question was, what do I do if my sim gets a whim to start a new career? One, if they're not in a career, it is absolutely yes. Two, if they're in a career that I've rolled for on the calculator, I will redo the calculator, right? Because when your sim first rolls for that job, it is also basing it on any of your traits that you have, any of your it's basing on your traits, it's basing on your like your grades in school, it's basing it on your extra traits and all of that. So if you've already given your sim another extra trait, you may get a different job. If they're asking for a specific career, a lot of times it really depends on what's forcing them to ask for that career. So like sometimes I will get sims who are not employed who ask for a specific career. And then I just take that they're asking for a career, not for that specific one, because I want the career to be based on the calculator, because the calculator is a better option for the sim that I'm, controlling. And it takes so much more into consideration with the calculators than the sim just saying, hey, I want to be in the salary person career. You know what I'm saying? That's just them being like, I want to get a job. So I just don't listen to the exact career that they're asking for. I just read that as they want to get a new job. And like I said, if they're already in a career, if they don't need it for their aspiration, there should be no problem with them getting a new job. I will roll again. And if they get, that they obviously are still the highest in the career that they have, I will probably just say like no. Or you could flip a coin and then swap if you get like heads. Or my other suggestion would be if you can run I don't know if you can do it with all careers or what, but I know at some point I had realized that I could have 2 full-time careers. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that was from a mod or what it was, but I had realized I could have 2 full-time careers. So if you have that option, like I don't know if it, like I said, I don't know if it comes from a mod personally, but if you have that option in your game and it is part of the game itself, then you could just give them 2 careers and have them work 2 careers. Maybe they feel like they're not making enough money. You could kind of play it off the best to your knowledge of like the sim and kind of that kind of thing. So those would be my suggestions to anyone out there who is trying to play wish-based, of how to kind of go about it. So yeah, I would just use the calculator again, see if they still pull the same thing. If they do, then obviously I would either stick with it or I would flip a coin and see if they swap, or I would try to give it to them as like a secondary career. And it could just be that your sim is feeling like kind of flustered, or like maybe they're just having like a bad day. Sometimes I will also like think about what my sim is going through. Like maybe they've been struggling with money and that's why they want to get a new job or something. Like they could just be like in the moment kind of stressed, you know what I'm saying? So you really got to think about your sim, kind of put it into a context. But my suggestion would be to roll the calculator again, from scratch, see if you still come up with the same career. And if you do, then either flip a coin and see if they swap, if they don't need it for the aspiration. Because if they need it for their aspiration, I wouldn't swap it. I would just ignore that, because you need that for your aspiration, and you're going to want your aspiration to be able to be worked on, you know what I'm saying? Another one was for opening a business or as well. Opening a business. Now, a business can run coinciding with your own career that you're already doing. So say Gordon King here, he's in the criminal career, right? So he can do a business, and he can run a laundromat, right? He can coincide with the two. He can coincide with the business and the career. I would just assume that means that your sim is interested in more than a 9-to-5 job. And if they want to open a business and you're willing to allow them to run a business in your save file, I would say go for it. Just maybe try and base it off of their hobby if you want, or maybe you could even base off of maybe you could even base off of the career that they have. So he's a criminal, right? And this is a good example, actually. So he's a criminal, and we all know Gordon King very well from The Sims 2. So he's a criminal, and he is going to be running a money front. So he can money launder his naughty businesses through his laundromat. That's why he's running a laundromat. So if you could run something like that, like a story kind of like that, then you would have a reason for them to have a business. Obviously, I, play very different than most other simmers out there, but that is kind of my money front, and it kind of gives me a reason to have him have a business. Otherwise, he would just be a criminal and just stealing from people, which would probably be pretty boring. And also, my other suggestion would be if your sim wants to, say, start a business, right? Start small. Start your business small. You don't have to have a humongous business. You could literally say, okay, so my sim is a painter and they now want to start a business. Starting a business to me also means selling my paintings on the street, getting out there, selling my items to the community without actually having to own a physical business. I would just say, I would just buy the stand to sell the paintings on, and I would start selling them. And once I sold my first painting, I would probably just say okay, that's completed. And if you have UI cheats, I would just right click it and complete it, because that is kind of a business. You're running a business. It's not a full on small business, but it's a business nonetheless. You're still running it. You're still making money off of it. So that's how I would personally go about that. That would be my suggestion to you. If you're in that predicament, to just kind of do that, and that would be good enough for me. I wouldn't need any particular physical business to say my sim is running a business, as long as I'm making money doing something. Even if you're selling to Plopsy, I mean, you could say that's Etsy. Those people that work on Etsy and sell things on Etsy, that is technically a business for them, because it's technically their shop. They're selling to people on the shop. So if you're selling things on Plopsy, I would consider that to be your business. You're selling on Plopsy, which is Etsy, and you're literally making money. So you can decide how you want to do that. I know everybody doesn't play with UI cheats, but it is an option to download very easily. It is a very great mod to have, and I would suggest it to anyone at this point. So that's kind of what I would suggest to you. And another thing that I would suggest is, if you're playing rotationally in your save file, this isn't really wish based, but a lot of your sims are not going to wish for children. So the thing about that is, unless you physically are okay with forcing people to have kids, what I personally do is I have any of my couples whom are in a marriage, they're dating, whatever. Every single time I play those couples, I make sure that they risky woohoo at least one time. One time is all it takes, literally. But that's to give you the opportunity to have babies born into your save file. Otherwise, your save file may dry up unless you play with Wicked Whims, which continues to baffle me sometimes, to the max. But yeah, so that would be another suggestion I would say, because you're not really going to get a lot of whims for that. So definitely, go ahead and have them woohoo if they're in a relationship without the whim. Obviously, I guess if you're thinking about it, if you're playing with RPO, they do get the whims over here, like would be happy to have a child. And if both of your Sims have that in your household, you could also use that to try for a baby, or you could just have them risky woohoo or whatever. And if the Sim has that they're not happy to have a baby, then obviously you would put them on birth control or like use, contraceptives, so you wouldn't have any children by accident. Or you could just be like me and just let your Sims kind of go. And then the Sim that gets unhappy, if they can't from a pregnancy and their significant other is also unhappy about the pregnancy, I will use those kids, if the parents don't come to terms with the pregnancy before it's born, I will actually set those children for adoption. So I will move them into my orphanage in my world, and those would be the Sims that I would adopt from. So when I adopt, I would deduct the money and I will move that Sim into my household. Obviously, you can do that in game, or you can just shift click on people with full edit testing treats on, and you can move them in. So those are all of my suggestions to all of you. If any of you guys are trying to play wish-based or even rotationally, there's a couple of tips in there. I am going to make a video soon on how I personally will be playing my rotational Sims, my Sims 2 to 4, because there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of things that are going to be so much fun. I streamed one tonight and I had a blast, and I think this is going to be another that I'm going to really enjoy. So if you guys are interested in seeing how I play personally rotationally, that is another thing that I will be making a video on very soon. I really hope that these tips helped you for how to play wish-based and what decisions to make when it comes to specific scenarios. If there is any other scenarios that you would like some advice on, please feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section below, or hit me up on Discord and let me know any of your things that you would love to see, and I will gladly try and make a video, even if it's just a short, to help you out so that you can get back to living your life to the fullest. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was very helpful for you. At least a couple of the tips I hope come in very handy for you, and I hope this will aid you in your amazing wish-based gameplay. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in my very next one. Thanks very much for watching.